caution. Your paradigm is about to shift at the intersection of fact and reason. You're entering Kingston Country.
I'm Dan Kingston, and you're listening to the Dan Kingston Podcast. Have you heard of the New Way Forward Act, H.R. 5383? It's really a new way backwards. It's a new way to define citizenship altogether, really. It's a bill that decriminalizes illegal entry into the United States, even by those that have previously been deported for rape, for murder. It doesn't matter. It's decriminalized. Illegal entry would no longer be illegal under this bill. And it has the regular supporters, AOC, Cortez, and a lot of other Democrats on the far left have come out to support this bill. It doesn't look like it's going to go anywhere, but it sure does expose their agenda, the far left open border agenda. For a long time, they talk about a path towards citizenship. And now it looks to me like they've gone so far left, that's not even in their game anymore. It's now a path to destroying the very concept of citizenship altogether. Because if they can do that, then anybody else can come in. That's essentially open borders. I think that's their plan, slowly to erode what it means to be a citizen. And that's what this bill does. By decriminalizing illegal entry into America, you're essentially having open borders. And by the way, don't Americans deserve to share in the success of this country? This is the world's largest economy. We're a superpower. And Americans deserve to share in the riches. Illegal immigrants don't. They don't. And that's not racist and it's not xenophobic. It's just how countries operate. They take care of their citizens first. Because if you don't do that, you're going to be a slum. You can't take care of the entire world. And that's just the way it is. Now, I want to make an analogy to you listening out there. If you're a bleeding heart far leftist and you say, I don't believe in citizenship either, and we should have open borders, and I'm okay, they can go ahead and cut in front of me. And it reminds me of a situation when you're in line, let's say in an airport for the get through security, and somebody is coming through and they're huffing and they're puffing and they look like they're late for a flight and they ask you politely, distressed, can I skip ahead? And maybe you grant them some empathy and sympathy. Maybe not. Maybe you size them up and you're like, oh, this guy's a cheater. No way. Or he looks genuine or she looks genuine and you feel bad. Maybe you have been in this situation when you had to basically rely on somebody else's sympathy to cut in line and just give you the benefit of the doubt. Now, that is a sign of a case-by-case analysis. It's a sign, I think, of a society that's generous, that's compassionate, that's empathetic. If you're looking at individual cases and you're saying, all right, I'm going to let this happen because I feel that you really do look really stressed out and it's my authority, right? Because I'm in this line, I can let you skip ahead. The problem is all the people in line behind you, because it's really not your decision. While, yeah, they're stepping in front of you, they're also stepping in front of everybody else. That's what the pathway to citizenship was. That historically has been the far left position. While flawed, it's not completely ludicrous. You can understand the idea and thinking behind it, especially if you've ever been in an airport security line late for a flight. The difference is now what they're doing is they're going off to the security officials at the airport and they're saying this whole process of having a line is faulty. And in fact, anybody should be able to skip ahead for whatever reason. And it shouldn't be an individual's right to let that person skip ahead. It should be unquestioned right. Anybody should be allowed to skip ahead of anybody else by law. And then you've destroyed the concept of the line itself. There's no more line anymore. It's just a free-for-all. It's anarchy. And that's exactly what's happening now. with this bill that would decriminalize illegal entry with an open border policy that basically says, screw it. Screw it. We don't even care about citizenship at all. The concept of citizenship is flawed. Anybody should just get to go anywhere they want and are free for all. And anybody's entitled to the American wealth. Anybody is. It doesn't matter if you're from Bangladesh. You're entitled to the American wealth just as much as somebody that was born in Brooklyn. Just as much as someone that was born in Peoria. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you were born. We're all entitled to American wealth. Well, it sounds great, but we know it's impossible. We know that life doesn't work that way. We know that countries don't operate that way. They never have. You can go back thousands of years understanding that the concept of a country is really comes down to its people. How do you define those people? And do those people, how do they define their country? So, let's go to the specifics of this New Way Forward Act, H.R. 5383. Also, I've opened the lines, and we could get a caller. If we get a caller, we'll go ahead and break away to the caller. So let me read from you a section of the bill. It's, 4,000 words, and it's lengthy. Here's a small section to give you an idea. The officers and employees of any state or any political subdivision of a state are prohibited from performing the function of an immigration officer in relation to the investigation, apprehension, transport, or detention of aliens in the United States or otherwise assist in the performance of such functions. They can't even assist. State officers, local officials can't even assist in immigration, in any immigration proceedings, investigation, apprehension, transport, detention. It's ludicrous. It's a states' rights issue. You're taking away all the rights from the states to defend their own borders and giving it to a corrupt federal government, which looks more and more to be bought off by rich, elitist corporate interests. And I don't know if there's anything Trump really can do about that. Because if he could, would it have been done already? So what we're doing, I guess, is just building that wall. Then you don't have to deal with all the corrupt elites that are sneaking people through. They won't be able to sneak them through a wall, will they? And there's a lot of talk about building a moat. You could build a moat. You could put sharks in it, alligators, and then that would really be an open border policy, wouldn't it? That would be like a wide open border policy. Fill it with water, put in some piranhas if you can't afford the sharks. There are some animal rights issues. I don't know, great white shark is not going to do well in a freshwater moat. So get some piranhas. I don't care, whatever you do. How many drones, by the way, would it take? Now that we're winding down our Middle East operations, you put a few drones over there on the border, and all of a sudden the Mexican drug cartel operations are going to quiet down, wouldn't they? Wouldn't they quiet down overnight? I mean, how many rocket attacks from a drone would it take? I think one. I think they're smart. I think the Mexican drug cartels would just go somewhere else. Don't you? Operate in a different region and leave our border towns alone. And wouldn't the Mexican border towns thank us as well? Because it's a completely lawless situation out there. It's not getting much attention, but these Mexican drug cartels, they run over towns. They basically take over towns like a small military. I mean, they're essentially terrorists, but the Mexican government, they're going to protect them. What can you do?
This is Kingston Country.
The Dan Kingston podcast is brought to you by Traveling with Janice and Cruise Brothers. This is a great time of year to plan your summer vacations. Lots of great travel specials for cruises and tours. Call Traveling with Janice and Cruise Brothers for all these ideas for families, groups, weddings. 480-648-3324 or email travelingwithjanice@gmail.com. So let's talk about how supporters of H.R. 5383 talk about the bill, because that says a lot. They're so proud of this. They say, well, under current law, immigrants who commit serious crimes, such as child sexual abuse, must be deported. regardless of the sentence they receive. Oh, well, how wrong is that? Well, if our bill passes, the House and Senate, it's signed into law by the president, then there'll no longer be any crimes that can automatically require deportation. And they're so proud of that. And they pat themselves on the back. This bill, according to its supporters, it would require an end to local police collaboration with immigration and customs enforcement. The local police can't even collaborate. And so doesn't that make the job much more difficult for immigration and customs enforcement? Of course it does. Of course it does. It ends the automatic deportation procedures. It ends the mandatory detention. And it ends those things even for child sexual abuse, serious crimes, fraud, robbery. And I, again, feel this is an attack on the concept of citizenship. How else would you explain it? The truth is that the inner cities and rural communities have been suffering for decades. These impoverished communities never get better because they're replaced wave after wave of illegal immigrants that come in. And as soon as the community starts getting better, they get a new wave of poor, uneducated, illegal immigrants. And the housing prices, they stagnate. And the businesses, they stagnate. And the schools, they deteriorate. And you wonder why these communities never improve. Well, it's a perfect storm. Will a wall that's a couple miles long do anything? No. It won't. He's running out of time to build the wall. And if you can't do that, you failed on a campaign promise. And you're basically allowing the New Way Forward Act, H.R. 5383, to gain momentum by showing the American people that they were right, that the mainstream media, the media government apparatus was right, saying that you couldn't get it done, that the wall was impossible. So how do we make it a reality? Well, move in some of those drones. As we wind down Middle East operations, move some of the drones to patrol the areas on the border, to crack down on the Mexican drug cartels, to use the images on the drones to report to Immigration Customs Enforcement. Build a moat. Open the border really wide, really wide, and put in some sharks in there. Think outside the box a little bit, you know? I mean, hell, you only have to show one person being eaten by one shark. It's going to stop it. It's going to stop it right then and there. I mean, do I really want illegal aliens to be eaten by sharks? No, I do not. But do I want them dying on the trek across the border? Do I want them smuggled by criminals who are packing them into trucks that have, 120, 130, 140 degrees on the inside? They open it up and there's 20 people dead? Do I want girls getting raped and women getting raped for an exchange to get taken across the border so that then they can just get separated from their child? Well, I mean, they did break the law and deported. I don't want that for them. So if we could show an image of somebody being eaten by a shark, even if it was fake CGI of an immigrant who slipped and fell into the moat we created and got eaten by piranhas, and we could spread that and show that, maybe it would make a difference. Maybe it would slow it down. Maybe it could actually save some lives.
Kingston Country. You've been listening to the Dan Kingston Podcast.
Dan Kingston here, asking you to do me a huge favor. Will you possibly rate the Dan Kingston Podcast on Apple Podcasts? Each new rating, believe it or not, really does have a major impact on the way Apple's algorithm recommends content. With just one quick click, you can help promote citizen journalism and end the stranglehold of the mainstream media. Together, we're going to do this. Thank you. I really appreciate your support.